So in a day where everyone's just talking about the Caitlin Clark situation, which is a bit ridiculous, we are, and we'll at least talk about the Iowa Hawkeyes. I'm going to talk about Iowa right here because I do feel like the Iowa Hawkeyes are a really interesting team, and I think I want to talk a little bit more positive instead of rambling and ranting about the WNBA because, look, I love talking about basketball, and I love the fact that there are people, not, again, to be fair, people are here for the basketball. You can see it from a lot of videos talking about Iowa, but this is Iowa's biggest test. Iowa are now in a situation where they are facing off against Iowa State and Audi Crooks tomorrow night in a game that I'm going to be live for. Possibly. I'm possibly going to be live for it. Look, I'm not gonna say any more, but there are kind of things going on in my life right now where if I'm not in my house, but like if I'm with my parents, if I'm somewhere where I have a setup, I will be live, but don't know the odds of that. The odds are probably about 75%, but day by day, I don't know. And if that is the case, like at some stage over the next couple of weeks, I'll be out of here and working off a laptop again. But yeah, so I'll try to be live, and because I don't want to make any promises, because there's a few times I said I'm going to be live for X, Y, and Z, and it just hasn't worked out. So look, if I'm not live, just know I have a very good reason not to be live. But Iowa are facing Iowa State in a game that ESPN has essentially called a dead heat. ESPN has called Iowa versus Iowa State a dead heat right now. Either team could win, and you have got who looks like the most unstoppable player in all of college basketball in Audi Crooks trying to face off against who, I mean, is looking like one of the future stars of women's college basketball in Ava Heiden. Like, we are looking at the new Megan Gustafson, Monica Sinano, the new like Iowa bigs. Because in my opinion, I think the Iowa bigs have been exceptional over the years. And it's just a pity that we didn't really get to see much of Meg Gustafson. We didn't get to see Meg Gustafson play with Caitlin Clark. We didn't get to see too much of... we got to see the law firm. We got to see Sinano with Caitlin Clark for 3 years. But like, obviously, if you're looking at Meg Gustafson came in at Iowa as a freshman, averaged 10.7 points per game. And as a sophomore, she went and averaged 18.5 points per game. And I will say, when it comes to Ava Heiden, statistically, she's not putting up quite the same numbers, but she is averaging similar rebounds, again, a couple of points less, and doing it on the exact same field goal percentage. Again, Gustafson, in her last 2 years, averaged 26 and 28 points per game for Iowa. And look, she's, again, one of the greatest one of the best college players of the last 15 years was Meg Gustafson. And you've got Ava Heiden here, who's been probably their best big since Meg. Like, in fairness, like Monica Sinano did, like, she did also benefit from Caitlin Clark. I'm going to be honest here. Like, Zanano very much benefited from Caitlin Clark. I think even she'll say as much, that she benefited from Caitlin Clark big time when she was with Iowa. That being said, like, Heiden just looks to be the next in line. She genuinely just looks to be the next in line, and it's one of those things where you have a super player there, and you also have a Hannah Stuelke. Like, Heiden is leading in points and rebounds. Taylor Stremlow is leading in assists. Jada Williams averaging 6.7 assists per game. Not the hardest thing in the world to do when you're just having to throw it into Audi Crooks. But that is the wrong video. But Ava Heiden this is where we get to see what she's made of. Because look, Iowa haven't had, other than Baylor, and they nearly blew it against Miami, who aren't very good. They were just terrible that game. Iowa haven't had the toughest run in. Fairfield are okay. But the Baylor game here, which was a tough one, Heiden was the player who stepped up with 18 points. Stremlow came up. Scott was the best player on either team. But she also did it. And it's, if you look at Stuelke didn't have the most points, but Little Paige Buggs is somebody that's projected to be there or thereabouts in that first round. Stuelke's the better player of the two. But this is where we got to see Hannah Stuelke really step up for Iowa, because she is, if you look at her stats for her career, Hannah Stuelke has gone down every single season since her sophomore year in points per game. She averaged 14 points per game as a sophomore, had a 40-something point game playing with Caitlin Clark. And we're looking at a player who has gone down, and she hasn't really, like, her field goal percentage going from 62 to 49 to 53. She's at least shooting more threes this year, but doing it at an extremely small clip. So I do think she's a W player. I think she projects to be a pro as a pro glue guy, but I don't think she projects to be much more. Like, it's one of those things where she is so, like, she has to be able to play some sort of defense on an Audie Crooks. And this is where we get to see a lot of her prospects as a pro, because if she can go out and guard Audie Crooks, which no one's been able to do, and even hold her to 19 points, heck, even 30 on more shots than 19, it is genuinely it's something that really matters. It's something that really matters for her as a pro. And I do think Heiden, it's going to be a really tough one for them to stop Ava Heiden, because I think it's tough for everyone to stop Ava Heiden. Like, I think it's very tough for anyone to stop her. And we might be looking at a matchup of two of the 5 best bigs in women's college basketball this year. And I get it, stats-wise, you're like, Crooks has been much better than Heiden. I think Crooks is a National Player of the Year candidate. I think Ava Heiden is an All-American candidate. Like, you don't have to average the most points. Like, Iowa don't score that many points a team. Their points are kind of shared out amongst a lot of players. No one's going to average, this isn't Caitlin Clark, Iowa, no one's going to go and average 30 points per game on this Iowa team. But Heiden can really put it up to Crooks. And this is their biggest challenge of the year. Because, I mean, like, Baylor might be better. Baylor might be better than Iowa State, if we're being honest. But it doesn't change the fact that this is the big game, because this is where their best player matches up with your best player. Their best player matches up with your best player, which is still so important. Like, people don't realize a lot of the time how, like, how important individual matchups can be. And if their best players match up to your best player, those games kind of mean more a lot of the time. It's Iowa versus Iowa State. It's the Iowa matchup. And I just have a feeling this could be one of those biggest games of the college year, because this is one of the most popular teams against one of the best players in state. And you're now looking at a potential future star against a current star in Ava Heiden. And there's only, what's the difference in ages between them? Heiden is born, I don't know, there's no date of birth there. Either way, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys.